No, I never knew that I would be where I am today from going and making animal sound at a show. It's kind of one of those positions where you take the leap, and if you fly, you fly. If you fail, you just learn from it, and you adjust and you move forward. The Lord said, "I won't, give you anything more than you can't handle." So, as long as it's in His hands, that's all you can do is go. The way I look at it is, from my accident, I died 3 times. I died twice. I died twice on the operating table. So the way that I look at it, I'm on borrowed time. I'm not supposed to be here. So whatever I do, I'm grateful for. Hey guys, this is Josh Carney with Sun of the South TV. This is Tom Rowland's podcast.
Boy, today's show deserves a really special introduction, but I do not want to spoil this story for you. Josh Carney is a special person. He's a guy that had something kind of unfortunate happen, but he's managed to turn that around and have that be, instead of something horribly unfortunate in your life, it turned his life around to being a real tool for reaching other people. And he's reaching other people with a mindset, with an attitude, with a positive outlook in life. It's a really cool story. It starts with a young boy who just wants to hunt. Unfortunately, something happened on one of those early hunting trips that changed his life forever. Josh was nice enough to sit down with us on this podcast to tell his story one more time. I know he's told it a lot, but his story was new to me. Some may have heard it, but I really hadn't. And I thought it was fascinating. And I thought that he was a fascinating person, and I enjoyed my time with him very much. And I think you will too. He's Son of the South. It's what he goes by, Josh Carney. Josh, man, I've checked your videos out, and I got to say, man, you're amazing. I'm really excited to talk to you today.
Man, I definitely appreciate it. I'm glad you reached out, and we finally got our schedules to line up, because the last time we messaged, I was on a little turkey tour, and I'm a little hard to get in contact with when I'm turkey hunting.
I know. I was quite surprised that you were getting back to me as quickly as you could, but where all did you go?
I hunted Florida, Georgia. I didn't kill a bird in Florida, so I went to Georgia, killed a bird. I drove back to Florida. Then I killed a bird, and then I left from the coast of Florida all the way across to about 15 minutes from Mexico.
Wow.
And then I hunted there, and then drove all the way up to Kansas, Missouri, and then I made my way back home, all in 24 days.
Wow, that's amazing. And so all the different, what all species did you hunt?
I did Osceola, Eastern, and Rio.
Yeah.
I wanted to go get a Merriam, but I would have had to drive to the northern part of Nebraska or South Dakota, and they had all that flooding and stuff going on, so I just didn't want to chance it.
Yeah. So where do you sit on your lifetime slam for all the different species?
The only bird that I don't have, I'll kill my Osceola, Easterns, and Rios just about every year, and I have not killed a Merriam. It's just such a long trip for me to come from way down south to go to the northern part of Nebraska, Colorado, or South Dakota just to kill a turkey. I mean, I'm passing up a lot of turkeys to get to one.
Right, you sure are. So home is Louisiana, right?
Home is Louisiana.
And so that's kind of where your story begins. And I've done a good bit of research. You kind of popped up on my radar, and then my son, who is a big hunter, he sent me your Instagram. He was like, "You should follow this guy." And that's basically all he said. So I'm like, okay. So I check it out, and then I started digging in a little further, and I just can't believe your story. It's amazing. And
I appreciate
so
it
all started in Louisiana. Is that where?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you wouldn't mind, fill us in a little bit.
So I mean, ever since I was a little pup, I grew up in the outdoors hunting and fishing. And as I grew up, I progressed. I fell in love with the outdoors. I wanted to do it more. I played sports. I was, pitcher for baseball, point guard for basketball, and but every chance I got, I was in the outdoors trying to hunt something. I mean, I was one of those kids back. I'm going to say back then, like I'm old or something, which I'm not. But back then, things were a lot different than they are today. I mean, you just go pick up a pellet rifle or a 22 and just go out hunting anywhere you want to. And that's kind of how I grew up. And I was always in outdoors, and I just fell in love with it. Sometimes my dad would go to work, and wherever he was working, and they might have a break of woods or something. I'd just go run around in the woods, try and shoot a couple squirrels or whatever, and just have a good time doing it. I was like the most deadliest kid on squirrels and Tweety birds and all that with a pellet gun. So I just fell in love with it. And then about the age of in my early years, we had rabbit dogs. Always grew up with rabbit dogs and fell in love with it. Just hearing those dogs, bark and run a rabbit, it sounds like a choir. It sounds like just something amazing. And I just fell in love with hearing that and being outdoors. And like I said, I was deadly. That my gun was a 410 single shot, and I was the most. That was like a Western shooter. I was so deadly with this little 410. It was amazing.
Well, when you
And
got one shot, you got to make it count.
you got to make it count. And I've practiced so long, shooting at 14, and I'd stepped up to a bigger gun, 20 gauge, or whatever. But like I just, I really trained myself. I mean, a lot of guys shoot, bows or shoot guns professionally, and I wasn't professional by any means, but, I've shot so much and I've did so much as gun because, like I said, I grew up, that's all I had. So, when you get 5 shells, you got to come home with 6 birds. It kind of makes it hard.
Yeah.
So, I just, got really good with shooting shotgun. So I did a little bit of competition shooting, a little skeet shooting, all that stuff. And then it just wasn't as fun as hunting to me. So about the age of 11, I caught wind of deer hunting. And I'm like, all right, it looks fun, I want to try it. So I come from a small game hunting family, no one in my family knew how to deer hunt. So I grabbed my dad's 30-06, and he had a friend of his that deer hunted. He took me out to the woods. He's like, "All right, you walk this way. There's a stand there. You go get in it." And I was on my own, by myself, 11 years old, with 30-06,
Hmm.
deer hunting for the first time. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I get in this stand, and it's an afternoon hunt, and I guess it's getting about prime time, and a deer comes from behind me and walks right up under this little tripod stand I'm sitting in, and I'm shaking like a leaf. The deer gets about 15 yards away from me, and I smoke this deer. It takes off, it runs, and my dad's bud comes down, and he's like, "All right, did you get it?" I was like, "I think so." So we go and we look for this deer. He's like, "What'd you shoot?" I was like, "I shot a doe." He's like, "Man, you shot a buck." I was like, "No, I'm pretty sure it was a doe. I mean, I've looked at pictures, pretty sure it's a doe." And I actually ended up shooting a little button buck. So my first deer was a button buck, and I got all the initiation to the deer hunting world when they tell you that they found your bullet inside the deer and then cover your face with blood.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so I got that. Man, it was once you get that taste of blood in your mouth, you're just kind of hooked after that.
Yeah.
And then a couple years went by, and I started seeing turkey hunting on television, and it looked super easy. Television is the biggest lie ever. I seen these guys. They just like rub these two sticks together. It makes a squeaky noise, and the turkey comes in. And they shoot it. I was like, man, that's easy. I can do that. So we go to Walmart, buy all these calls, and I'm like aggravating the daylights out of my mom. She's ready to kick me out. We go to church one Sunday morning. It's like, all right, well, we're going turkey hunting after this. So we went to a spot where I grew up, small game hunting. Never knew they had turkeys on the place or anything. We were just going to go. We get down this gravel road, and I find a feather in the road, turkey feather. I was like, all right, we're going to go in right here. We're going to set up, blah, blah, blah. I was calling all shots. So my dad sits up to my left. about 20 yards, and I set up on a tree, and we start calling. And we didn't know anything about turkey hunting at all. So we were like, okay, well, it's a bigger bird, just shoot a bigger shell. Like this was before Longbeard XRs, TSS, or anything that came out.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, it's bigger bird, shoot a bigger load. So I had a 410 with number fours, and my dad had a 12 gauge with double up buckshots. This is like how much about turkey hunting we knew. The bird came behind the tree that I was sitting on. My dad shot, and when he shot me. So I took the full load of the double up buckshots. Body went numb, ringing in my ears. My dad ran and picked me up and carried me out of the woods and called 911. And by the time we got back to the front of the property, they were there. I got back in EMS, and they drove me to the hospital. And yeah, from there, I started my recovery process and all the other jazz. And about 2 weeks after I got out of the hospital, I went right back hunting.
Really? So, well,
Yeah.
there's a period of time in there where you're in the hospital, and I'm sure that it wasn't looking good. You weren't feeling good. Like you tell the story now, like you just went right back to hunting, but I mean, you were paralyzed, obviously, and there was
Yeah.
what was the recovery like while you were in the
Yeah,
hospital?
so I stayed in the hospital for about 3 months. Doctors came in, it's like, well, you've been shot, you won't be able to walk in. And at the time, I had a bullet hit my esophagus, so I had a breathing tube in my throat, so I couldn't talk or anything. Doctors came in and said, since that breathing tube's been in your throat for so long, you won't be able to talk, you're gonna need a trach. And when he told me that, it upset me. And I pulled the breathing tube out of my throat
Wow.
and it altered my vocal cords, which allows me to make animal sounds. So it's really crazy how a turkey hunting accident allows me to sound like a turkey. It's really
Right.
weird.
Right. Well, I read that, and that was one of the things that I was the most. It just blew me away. Like they told you were never going to be able to speak again, so you just ripped this thing out of your
Yeah.
throat, and then at how long? I mean, did you start talking like a week after that, or like what
No, like
happens?
that day. I was back to talking that day.
Okay.
Um, what happened was it was it was it was causing like an itch in my throat, and like it was just really bothering me. I just I tugged on it and just pulled it out. The nurses weren't too happy with me about that, but um, I just wasn't comfortable, and once I did that, I had to go through vocal therapy and speech therapy and all that kind of stuff. But after that, my vocal cords never matured,
Mm-hmm.
so I still have like a little bit of squeak and that high pitch and all that in my voice because, like I said, my vocal cords never really matured since the accident. And like I said, I was only 13 when it happened, so I was just in that puberty stage.
Yeah. And so, how long was it until you started realizing that? Man, that funny squeak in my throat kind of sounds a little bit like a turkey or a coyote or
So funny story about that. I never knew I could do that. Um, 2000 and summer of 2013, I went to a trade show and they had a company there trying to sell turkey calls. And this guy was hassling about turkey calls, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, what kind of call do you use? And I think I was maybe 20 at the time, 19, 20. So I was still a little bit cocky. I was like, man, I can do that with my mouth. And because he sounded pretty horrible. And I was like, man, I was like, I can do that with my mouth. And he called me out on it. So like, I'm like, oh crap. And I'm not one to like back down. So I'm like, okay, I got this. So I'm like trying to pull a rabbit out of my hat. And I just started mimicking what this call sounded like. And the owner of the company turned around. He's like, is that our call? He's like, no, that's that kid. And they ran me away from the booth.
ran you away because you sounded better than their calls.
Yeah, first time ever. I didn't know how to do it. I just learned. I was like, wow, that's cool. So I went to another side of the show, and somebody was like, yeah. It was like, well, what else can you do? I was like, I don't know. I just learned that 10 minutes ago. And I was like, okay, well, can you do duck or a goose or whatever. I was like, you tell me what it sounds like, I probably could. So that show is how I, got my foundational learning that I could do that. From there, I went home. I was like, that was pretty cool. I had a fun time at the show. Whatever, no big hoop. So later on, I, posted a video on social media. It's like, hey, I think I can kind of sound like an animal. Just let me know what you think. And it kind of like took off. And a lot of people were like tagging me in videos and things like that. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I went to a show called ATA show, Archery Trade Association, January 2014. And like I don't know, I may have been like calling for 4 months, and I go to the show. Every person that's on the outdoor television, you know, all the hunting companies, all these big companies and outdoor advocates, celebrities, all this is at this show. So I show up, my buddy's Rob. He's like, hey man, you just need to go to the show. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to look around. So I go there, and a friend of mine, Kirsten Godfrey, she was like, you need to do your goose call. I was like, no, you done lost your mind. So, and you gotta understand, like, I'm a little small town boy from Louisiana, and I'm around, Michael Waddell, Lee and Tiffany, Jim Shockey. Like, I'm around all these
Oh
big name
yeah, that's
celebrities.
the
And
Super Bowl.
Yeah. And I'm like starstruck. I'm like, wow. So Kirsten and I get together, and we were walking the show, and we passed by Jim Shockey, and I have like a fangirl moment. Like, I screeched. I'm like, oh my God, there's Jim Shockey. And so Kirsten and I were going through the show, and seeing Jim Shockey, and had a fangirl moment. I just freaked out. I was like, oh my God, there's Jim Shockey. She was like, you want to meet him? I was like, no, he's got a crowd of people around him. He's busy. No. So she parted this crowd like Moses parting the Red Sea. And she's like, Jim, this is Josh. Josh, this is Jim. And like, I'm so amped up and freaked out. And when I get excited, here's a funny thing about me. Like, when I get excited, certain words come out as a goose call. So like, I didn't really say hi to Jim Shockey. I goose honked at him. And he was like, did you just honk at me? I was like, maybe.
What does that sound like when that happens? Do it.
Say it again.
What does it sound like when that happens?
So,
Like
in
let
this
me hear it.
instance, like, so I said hi in a goose voice. So it sounds like this. Hi. And he was like, and Kirsten was like, hey, just, do some of your calls for Jim. I was like, I'm not about to do that. And she's like, just do it. So I did a couple calls, and he's like, wow, that's like really cool. And he's like, do you mind if we like video it? I was like, no, I don't mind. So, he did a video, and he posted it on the social media page, and Eva posted it. And then like around this whole show, people like, who's going around blowing a dang on animal call? Like, who's blowing goose calls in here? Like, this is an archery show. Who's blowing goose calls? And they're like, no, that's that kid. And like the whole time, like, I was known for the kid making animal sounds. I went from an elk to a goose to a coyote to a turkey to whatever just people threw out at me. I was just going off and naming, doing all kind of crazy sounds. And that's kind of how I got my start in the hunting industry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's really cool that like all of a sudden you're kind of discovering that you can make these sounds. So you're probably, leaving these shows, going home, practicing other sounds, and then coming up with like your whole repertoire of all the different things that you can sound like. At what point do you start actually putting this to use in the field?
After I learned that I can actually do them and sound pretty good at it, I was like, so that following spring, I was like, someone invited me turkey hunting. And I was like, kind of got shot turkey hunting, not sure I want to go back down that route, but what the heck, let's go. So I
Really?
went turkey hunting. And
So who is this that invites you to go turkey hunting? Is this like a
it
close
was
friend or somebody that you didn't know very well?
someone I didn't know very well. Someone that I met at the ATA show, at the time.
Wow. That had to be like really something to consider, like not only for you, but for your family as well. Like, okay, I'm going turkey hunting. Like that has got to be your greatest fear at that moment. Like,
it wasn't as hard as, a lot of people would think. I mean, I'm one of those guys, you just kinda just gotta grab the bull by the horn and, enjoy your 8-second ride. So, you know, being injured in a turkey hunting accident didn't actually, hinder me. It kinda made me wanna do it more. Like, I absolutely love turkey hunting. Like, after my accident, like, I am obsessed with turkey hunting. It's, kinda one of those, like, love-hate relationships. I respect the animal so much, but, like, every time I get out there, like, I wanna get revenge on a turkey. Don't know why, but I just absolutely love turkey hunting. Like, if it was up for if I had to choose between turkey hunting, deer hunting, or whatever, I would choose turkey hunting every single time.
so when this gentleman, I'm assuming gentleman, invites you to go turkey hunting, is it nearby where you are, or
No.
did you have to travel?
No, it
What
was,
was this?
actually the place that I hunted, this past spring in Texas, like I said, 15 minutes from Mexico. That's actually where we went turkey hunting.
Wow. So how did you get there? I mean, so on this second round, there's everything's different. There's obviously a lot of challenges. I mean, you're paralyzed at this point, so you're in a wheelchair. Is that right?
Yes.
When you go, but now but on the upside, you sound exactly like a turkey. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, but then maybe there's some advantages. How did that first trip go?
So the thing about this trip is they had a wheelchair called an action track chair. It's like a little bulldozer. It's the best way to describe it.
I mean, is that the one
It's
that
a
I see on
wheelchair
your
with
Instagram?
like tank tracks on it. So it goes through pretty much anything. They had one there at this ranch. So that's what I hunted out of to help me get around and everything like that. So we set up that first morning. We didn't get a bird come in. So I was like, look, I just kind of want to move around. So we moved around a little bit and I called out, and when I called, a bird gobbled like maybe 100 yards. And we were in the wide open, so we really couldn't do much. So we just kind of jumped into a big cactus bush, which wasn't smart at all, but it happened. The turkey came down the road and I shot him, and it was like absolutely amazing. From there, I just got hooked. I left there, and another company was like, "Hey, listen, you want to go turkey hunting?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." So like my next trip was in Missouri, and then I left Missouri, and then I went to Kentucky. So like I started traveling, like going hunting all the time, everywhere, and it was just fun.
So
I enjoyed being on the road,
at this
and then I was
point,
killing turkeys, so I loved it even more.
how old are you?
I want to say 21, 22.
Okay, so and then how are you getting around to all these places? Are you
So I
alone?
have a vehicle that's customized for me that I'm
Okay.
able to drive. I have hand controls on the vehicle.
Yeah, and so you could travel around alone,
Yes. Oh
and
yeah.
that's what you choose to do, just like get on this first tour. Now I know the one that you just got back from, that was full on, but this first one I'm interested in because everything's new at that point. Like you're probably just learning how to do these hand controls and
No. So for I knew how to do. Think I started driving when I was like 11, so I
yeah.
kind of knew how to drive. So like after my accident, 15, 16 ish, I started like learning how to do the driving um with controls,
Yeah.
and then I got my license at 18.
Okay. So that's
With
not
hand
new.
controls and all that stuff certified for a vehicle. So at this time, I already knew how to drive. I'll already drive myself around, everything like that.
Okay. So but then on the first turkey tour, you go from almost Mexico up to Missouri, and then what? You just go back
Then
home, or
Kentucky, like way,
okay.
way eastern Kentucky.
Yeah. So what did it feel like? Like, is this like a sense of uh, of freedom? Like when you go
Oh
there on that
yeah. Oh,
first trip, and
definitely a
then
sense
you're
of
you're
freedom.
having success, and then you're having these opportunities come up as well. I mean, what did that feel like for you at that point? Like,
You know, it's gonna sound really weird, but you know, like, the satisfaction that a dog gets when he sticks his head out the window when you're going, like, 50 miles an hour?
yeah, I got
It was
two of them at
kinda
my
like
feet right
that.
now.
Yeah, it was kinda like that, everything, like, there's not a care in the world, everything's going great, you're having fun, you're just enjoying, what's coming at you at the moment, and that's, how I looked at it. I was having a great time doing it.
That's awesome. And so that tour comes to an end, and are you videoing some of this stuff and getting it out on
Yeah,
social
so
media?
these hunts that I did go on, there were a couple different shows that I was with that video the hunts.
Mhm.
So they were documented, they were videoed and everything like that. Now after that, I kind of, broke away and did my own little thing. I kind of, got my own camera, started learning how to, you know, do some filming and stuff like that. And, I just kind of, took my own path.
Yeah. And is that where you are now? Like with
That
what you're doing? I
that
mean, your handle's Son of the
that
South
is where I
TV.
am now, but I'm kind of at a crossroads. I talked to a buddy of mine last night. Um, I love what I do as far as hunting wise in the industry, but it's changed so much and it's gotten away from tradition, and I don't enjoy the competitive side of hunting. I mean, it's not what it used to be.
Let's talk about that for a second. Like, what do you see that's changed? I mean, you're relatively young, and so the changes that you're talking about have come since you were what, 12, 11 or 12
So
years old
so
to
for me,
now?
in my opinion, hunting was all about tradition, passing it along, sharing stories, campfires, being a leader to the next person growing up, someone to carry the torch and make sure that the next person does it right or they have fun, they enjoy hunting. Well, now it's all about a game of inches. It's all about bragging rights. It's all about, who has the biggest bones. It's so competitive now that it just doesn't make it fun anymore. Like, if you're a blue collar guy that works 7 days a week or 6 days a week and you only have, you know, 8 days to hunt the whole season and you kill a deer that's, not justifiable to somebody else, you're just gonna get, bashed and ragged about it. I mean, it takes the fun out of sport when everybody has an opinion. And social media has made it so easy for people to broadcast an opinion when they have no relationship or any platform to do that, in your situation, in someone else's situation. And it's just become one of those deals where it's it's kind of it's sad to be honest with you, because you have everyone, I'm not gonna say everyone, you have a lot of people going against other people for doing something right.
Like, when you say that, when somebody's going against someone for doing something right, what do you mean?
Like hunting, I mean, it's if you're gonna do it legal, you buy your tags, you pay for your lease, or you hunt public land, or whatever you do, and you're successful doing it, someone shouldn't knock you down for doing that. I mean, everyone doesn't have, everybody doesn't have the financial situation as someone else. Someone can't go to an outfitter and pay, you know,
Right.
$5,000 to go hunt a deer. You
Right.
know, there's everyone has a different situation. So to understand or try to understand someone's situation rather than just bashing them for not harvesting a animal that's qualified in your eyes, it's ridiculous nowadays.
Well, there's so much else going on too with the high fence areas and people paying high dollars to go to, hunt, and they're going to kill something huge. It's going to be a
Yeah.
monster. And like you say, not everybody does that, but in my opinion, the people that really know what's going on, they see, a decent deer killed on public land, or a big turkey killed on public land, or any turkey killed on public land, that is, that to me trumps a high fence confined hunt. That's just
I
my
mean, I have
opinion.
no problem. I mean, hunting's hunting. If you're going to do it, you enjoy it, that's fine. But understand that there's different levels to it. If you can afford to do it and you can go sit in a high fence and that's what you like, then do it. Don't knock someone else for doing
Right.
it. Or if you can't afford to go hunt in a high fence and that's just not your cup of tea, well, don't knock the next guy for doing it. I've hunted in high fences, but I've hunted with kids. I've taken kids with disabilities in high fences. And for me, hunting whitetails in high fences is just not my cup of tea.
Right. But
I've been to some great ranches, and for me, it's kind of like cattle. That's kind of the way that I look at it. I mean, certain, I mean, they know where the deer's going to be and how they're going to come out and all that stuff. I mean, it's kind of like checking for cattle for me, in my opinion.
and it does get down to kind of the ability of the rancher or the landowner to raise a high quality animal, to raise a whole
Yeah.
herd of high quality animals, which goes into like, how did that animal get there? And maybe it was bought at an auction. Maybe I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. And it's almost, when I see those mega giants coming off a piece of property, it's almost more of a trophy for the landowner in a lot of
Mhm.
cases. Like, look what I grew. And that is pretty cool. But we have the same kind of deal going on in the fishing world where, some people like to fly fish, some people don't. Some people, like to fish with bait. Some people like to spin fish. Certain groups get upset with other groups, and there's this infighting that happens between people that really have a common interest. And that common interest really should be kind of put to good use, and all hunters and all fishermen uniting for hunting rights and fishing rights, and uniting to make sure that we have access to all the property that we currently do, instead of infighting. Like, the difference between fly fishing or using bait, is it really all that important, when the real important thing is, are we going to be able to, is the next generation going to be able to hunt and fish like we can? Is the following
And
generation
the
after
thing
that?
now, going to the next generation, you know, it's a lot harder nowadays to pass it along to the next generation because of all the effects of social media. It's so easy to be a Debbie Downer on social media to someone you have no idea who they are. So, say for instance, a kid goes catch a fish, it's his biggest fish. You're going to have someone that just are having a bad day or whatever may be the case, that's gonna, put a bad taste in a kid's mouth for saying, something that is none of their business. Then it's saying it's so much harder for someone to say congratulations than it is for them to give their opinion on something. And that's just the world we live in nowadays. As sad as it
So
is.
how does that, like, that's a sweeping change that's happened in the last probably less than 10 years, as social media,
Yeah.
goes from, just forums and things to what we have today, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, where you're actually sharing pictures and how, I mean, it seems like maybe that's your role. Like, you're talking about now, like, you're kind of at a crossroads. Have you ever thought that maybe your role is to tell that story? That it's not important what other people think, and you should be doing this for yourself and for the love of hunting or fishing or whatever, and just, like, develop a healthy relationship with social media rather than allow it to ruin your life, or to ruin your day, or ruin your catch, or ruin your hunt?
I think that's the path that I'm looking towards going, but still in a sense, I don't know if it's gonna be hunting related though. I mean, for me, hunting is a small part of it's a big part of my life, but it's a small part of life in general. I do a lot of motivational speakings and, seminars about life and life coaching and things like that. I think when I say I'm at a crossroads, I think that's the path that I want to take and have hunting kind of as a minor. Still enjoy it, still do it, for my pleasure and my benefits. But as far as making a full on career out of it, I mean, it's kind of like chumming the water for sharks. I mean, there's bigger fish out there.
Yeah. So
There's
let's
more
talk about
opportunity
that.
in life in general.
What
Go ahead.
what what is your message like as you look towards that and your the bigger picture? What is the message and the mission that you're kind of considering as you stand at this
For me, I
crossroads?
had a tragic accident, and in my situation, a lot of people see, oh well, he has it bad, but in my view, I have a great life. There are people out there that have life way worse than I do, and they're happy about it. One the thing for me that really got me, I went hunting with kids with crazy illnesses, like they could, pass away the next day or whatever, pass 100 or anything. And they had such a great outlook on life. And, being in my situation, I have nothing to complain about. You know, my legs don't work, but my mind does, my rest of my body does. Like I have nothing to complain about. We're talking about people with illnesses that is going to take their life, in a matter of, hours or days. And they're living it to the fullest extent while they have it, you know? And I think that there is a bigger message with that to be shown in the world. Because, every day, whether, you're driving through traffic or having a bad day at work, you can't allow that 5 minutes of mishap ruin your whole day. There's more positivity that should be seen in the world than negativity. And we just live in a world full of a lot of negativity. And, if we keep bringing each other down as a whole, it's going to be so hard for anyone to come up and do anything great because there's always going to be someone dragging them down. So, I want to put I want to be someone to kind of speak life in a downing situation.
So interesting. Like when you just said, you can't let like a little bit of traffic ruin your day. And it's almost, I had this kind of little quick vision of your life and your accident being that traffic and your lifetime being the whole day. It's like you can't let that traffic ruin your whole day, and you can't let that accident ruin your whole life. And you have chosen to have an attitude about this to where you're turning it from a negative to a positive. And I love that so much. And on this podcast, I've had this other gentleman from Canada. His name's Lawrence Gunther, and he's the only blind competitive angler. And
Mhm.
he's got just such an incredible outlook on life, just like yourself, just like you're talking about with these kids, to where every day he is living his life to the absolute fullest. And he would say that he's just like anybody else, but his eyes don't work. And he has figured out how to do the things he wants to do. And I think the things that we can all learn from it is just his remarkable attitude. Another guy that I had on the show one time was Kyle Maynard, who was born a congenital quadriplegic amputee, and he's one of the happiest people I've ever met in my whole life. And he's figured out how to climb mountains and how to. He was a wrestler in high school. He played football. He did all of these things that everyone told him that he couldn't do, and he maintains the most positive outlook on life. I don't know that I've been around many people that have quite as positive an outlook,
Mhm.
or who have achieved that much success. And one of the things that he said to me one time, he was like, we were talking about disabilities or whatever, and he was like, "Oh, I don't have a disability." And you're looking at a guy that is a quadriplegic amputee. I mean, he was born with no arms and no legs, and he's saying, "I don't have a disability." He's like, who has a disability is the people with all the negative self-talk and confidence issues and all these other things that rule their life from the moment, for their entire life. And it just gave me so much perspective, and I just love spending time with him in particular and talking to Lawrence because, man, I mean, you just go and apply that to your own life, and it's like, what am I doing for the rest of the afternoon? What am I doing for the rest of the month? What am I doing for the rest of the year? We all need to be applying that to our life. I love it that that's what you're considering as your platform. How do you think that you will reach as many people as possible with that message?
I don't know, man. It's kind of one of those deals where you just kind of have to jump and take a leap of faith.
Yeah,
It's kind of like this hunting deal. I never knew that I would be where I am today from going and making animal sound at a show. It's kind of one of those positions where you just, you know, you take the leap, and if you fly, you fly. If you fail, you just learn from it, and you adjust and you move forward. You know, the Lord said, "I won't, give you anything more than you can't handle." So, as long as it's in His hands, that's all you can do is go. The way I look at it is, from my accident, I died 3 times. I died twice. I died twice on the operating table. So the way that I look at it, I'm on borrowed time. I'm not supposed to be here. So whatever I do, I'm grateful for. So if I start, you know, being a motivational speaker and life coach, and I only touch, 5 people lives in 10 years, well, maybe those 5 people reached out and change, the lives of 5 more people, and 5 more people reach out, change 5 more people. It's kind of a network effect. You
absolutely.
could do something today that just simple, small and simple, that can pass on to the next person, and they pass on to someone, and it just keeps going. And you're the cause of someone to be absolutely happy, successful, or whatever, just because you did something so simple and small for someone else that got passed down the line.
I love it, and I'm sure that you've already seen that in the work that you've done thus far, and that's only going to be magnified as you reach out to more and more people. I want to talk to you
Yeah,
about.
man. I've had people come up to me. It's like, man, listen, you don't know, like, how you're positive. Just your humor. Because I post a lot of funny stuff on social media. I
Yeah.
make more handicap jokes about myself than anyone. I'm one of those guys. I kind of like to beat people to the punch. So if you ever see a post about paraplegic jokes about me, I just want to beat somebody to the punch. But just having a sense of humor or something just that small could change someone's whole day or their whole outlook on something. You know, I had I did a speaking appearance, and this lady, she had a kid that was in a wheelchair. She was like, "Look, the jokes that you crack about yourself, I mean, that made me laugh, because I have a child that's in a wheelchair. It's kind of hard for me to, see that outlook, when I'm the parent. But the way that you presented it, it makes me understand that, they're people just like we are. You have to have that sense of humor in order to get by and make it throughout the day."
You definitely do. And then, in today's world, so many people are so sensitive, and you have political correctness that extends into something like this. Like, that just seems off limits for so many people. But you are justified in saying it, and can kind of bring a little bit of humor back into a situation that probably needs humor more than any other situation that there is. Like, that situation
For
needs humor.
with honestly, with me, so like the first 3 years being in hunting industry, like, I tried so hard to be politically correct. I wanted to be, in that mainstream of how everyone else is doing things. And, I got away from being myself. And, once you lose who you are as a person, you just get into a miserable state of mind. And, being politically correct is not for me. If I have an opinion on something, I'm going to say it. Someone doesn't like it, we can have a debate about it. This is how I feel. This is how you feel. Well, let's talk about it. But as far as me being politically correct, I tried that for 3 years. It's not me. You know, it's, there are people that are sensitive about everything, and it doesn't matter what you say or what you do in life, someone is going to be offended about it. So you might as well just do it anyways.
Yeah. Yep, you got that right. A lot of people getting offended about a lot of things these days. So in this new, well, it's not new, but in your vision, your mission, we talked about social media just briefly, and it seems as though, I see it. I've got 3 kids of my own, a 20, 21, a 19, and a 15. So social media plays a big part in their lives. Social media has played a big part in so many of our lives over on basically everyone's life in the last, 5 or 6 years. It's really ramped up and amplified. I think that there is plenty of needed room for someone that comes in and has a message about the relationship with social media, especially a young person like yourself. You seem to have tremendous perspective. How do you talk to young people about the use of social media in their lives?
Honestly, the best thing you can do is post about it and let it go through the ripple effect and get passed along the way. I mean, that's the best way to do social media is just talk about it. You know, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not big on Twitter, but I think Twitter's still a thing. Just putting that presence out there because one person can share it from your platform. It goes to their friends, and they may have 400 friends. Well, out of that 400 friends, 10 of their friends may share it to their 400 friends. And, by 5 posts, I mean, you're at 100,000 people by 5 posts. So, just putting the message out there to be seen is the best way to do it, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, and that's great for a positive message. But what about I mean, so many kids today, and I see it all the time. They're posting, they're making their self-worth depends upon likes, comments, shares, how many followers they have, when in actuality, they don't know many of those people. And it's
You know what? So glad you brought that up. So the thing about that is the reason people there's an A type personality and B type personality. The reason people are so caught up on the approval of other people is because they want to be justified in some kind of manner. And they'll do whatever it takes to be seen or heard, whether it means, dropping their value or their self-worth. They don't understand who they are as a person and the real value that they bring to the table. So it's easier for so if you go to a bakery and you have bread on sale for 99 cents that looks good, looks fresh and everything like that, but it has a I don't know, 4-day expiration date, or you got bread that just got freshly baked out the oven for $6 a bag. Which one are you gonna buy?
I'm going for the fresh.
Well, see, you're gonna go for the fresh because it's fresh. It's got a longer lifestyle. But a lot of people now go for that cheaper value because they don't understand. They're looking for that thrill at the moment. All right, well, boom, I got 4 days to consist on this, and this is good for me for now. And that's the world we live in. It's all about the right now. You know, people don't understand the fact of longevity. So you get these people that are doing things, crazy videos or whatever for the attention now, but 2 years from now, somebody's gonna come up and take their spot. They're just gonna be, washed up stale bread, in the next 2, 3 years.
Right.
So, that's the difference in people that post on social media for attention and people that post on social media to do justice or like have something of value to educate and inspire someone along the way.
There's a big difference. That
It's all
also
about self-worth, and a lot of people don't understand the definition of self-worth because they are so caught up in knowing more about someone else than they do about themselves. And a lot of people don't understand how to be alone and figure out who they are as a person because they're so caught up in the fashion, the fame, the glam, and hype of other people. They know more about other people than they do themselves. And as a mainstream, society, where we are today. You know, for the next couple years, that's where we're going to be. But I think once people really understand who they are, even if they're quote unquote different, because I mean, I'm different, you know, once you put that out there and show who you are truly, you're going to have some people that don't like it. So what? You're going to have some people that love it and love what you speak out for, what you stand for. I'm kind of preaching to myself and it sounds really weird.
No, it's
Uh,
very interesting. I'm fascinated by the social media aspect because social media definitely controls our world like maybe nothing has ever done before, except maybe the very early days of television where, the world is watching three channels or two channels, and you put a message out there about a product or whatever, and it became the best way by far ever in history to sell anything. And now we have social media, and it's just a funny relationship because it's so powerful. And when my kids were young, we debated back and forth on, do we allow them to have social media accounts? If so, when? And you're talking to other parents and they're like, no way, my kid's not going to have a Facebook account. And this was before Instagram was big. Facebook was really, kind of the place. And I kind of had a different opinion about it. I thought, well, this is the most powerful technology that we may have ever seen in our lifetimes. It you If you tell kids that it's bad and you tell kids that they can't have it, they're only going to want it more, and they're going to try to learn how to use it on their own. So, in my opinion, and I don't know whether we did it right or wrong, but it's like I think we should set an age where they can have a social media account, and then we talk to them about what is appropriate material to put on that social media account, what is appropriate material to be looking at of other people's. So where you're not terrified of this thing, you don't think it's evil and wrong, because it can be evil and wrong, but not all social media is like that. And it can also be wonderful and right. And it's a real balance today with kids, like how to balance social media. And I just see so many of them just placing so much of their self-worth on the opinion of others, and on the opinion of others on something like a picture.
People just take the best picture of that time and post it, so other people can see that they're quote unquote living the best life. But, in all situation, you never know what happened 5 minutes before that photo.
Or after, and
Yeah.
that person that seems so happy could be deeply depressed and doing exactly the opposite of what they claim they're doing. But I don't know, social media is a funny thing, and I think that you certainly have a good perspective on how to use that in your life, and how to talk to other people. When you talk about the kids that you're talking to, the people that you're talking to, about taking time to yourself and finding your self-worth. I mean, like, I know what you're talking about, but I think that a lot of other people are just, they hear that and they don't know what in the world. I mean, it sounds good, but they don't know what in the world that means or how to do that. Like, what do you say to somebody that seriously needs that? Like, you need to take time to yourself and find out who you are before you put so much thought and worth on what other people's opinions of you are. Like, that was an interesting thing that you were talking about. What advice would you give a young person to how would they find out who they are?
You know, for me, here's the easiest way that I know how to explain it. I really like using metaphors. So say for instance, you have $100 bill. If you get $100 bill and you say who wants it, everybody in the room's gonna raise their hand, right? If you take that $100 bill and you crumble it up and throw it on the floor, step on it, all that stuff, you're gonna say who wants it now. Everybody's still gonna raise their hand because it's still valued at $100.
Right.
You rub it on the ground, throw it in dirt, spit on it, just absolutely abuse this $100 bill, tear it up, everything like that. It's still worth $100, and people still want that. So people have to understand that they are just like that $100 bill. No matter if life spits you up, tears you up, throws you through the ring in the mud, you're bruised, damaged, whatever, you're still worth the value that you started out with, or you're worth more. You don't depreciate just because life hits. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding that, whether they go through, you know, bad deals with the family or relationships, they have hard time at school or whatever. Life is tough. It's gonna hit you. It's gonna knock you down, but you have to keep getting up, because you're worth more than what you give yourself, credit for. I mean, a human does not depreciate like a vehicle. Once you drive it off the lot, it's 10,000 less. That's not a person. We only get greater in time as long as we work on improving ourselves and doing better for ourselves in the long run. So people just have to understand that factor, that they're worth more than what they're given credit for. You just have to dig deep and find out, what you're worth. If that means stop hanging around people that bring you down, change your scenery, change your crowd, change, be around people that better you. And then you start seeing your true worth. You start seeing what you bring to the table, who you are as a person. Then you start getting, you know, you start becoming happier and doing more for yourself. And that's, you know, where you're going to start changing people's lives, is letting them understand that fact you that they matter more than what they think.
Man, I love it. I love it. That's incredible. If you just go out with nothing more than that message, you're going to be incredibly successful in connecting with a lot of people and making some serious changes in a lot of people's lives. So, one more thing that I'd like to talk to you about. We talk a lot about the difference between positive and negative. Like we've even talked about it a couple times on this phone call right here about, you're trying to be positive or you're trying to be negative. I find that some people don't even know what that means. How would you explain the difference between a positive outlook and a negative outlook?
It's and that's a tough one to describe, because a lot of people really don't understand if they're being negative or not. The way you say things and the way you address people, could come off so negative towards, could just present itself as negativity, and you don't even know it. You may be joking around, and a lot of people joke around. They just have a tougher sense of humor, so they may not know that they're being negative. Um, if you have to, you know, sometimes you just have to hear yourself and be like, man, that was, kind of cruel, and really understand, like, how would I feel if I was in their situation? If I was treated like I treated someone else, how would I feel? And it just takes time to, really sit back and, want to change in order to change. But I mean, if you're, producing positivity, I mean, go up to somebody you don't even know, shake their hand, hey man, have a good day. You know, Somebody's in Walmart. Hey, can I give you a hand with your groceries? Just do things to, like, uplift people or just help them out, because you never know. But maybe down the road, you may be, stuck on side of the road. One of those people come up to you that you met way back in the day and it's like, hey, listen, I remember you came up to me when I was in Walmart, help my groceries. Can I help you out with a flat tire or something like that? But that same person, if you went to the store and, you cut them off or you got the parking spot and you got into an argument in the parking lot, well, they're going to see you inside the road, your car could be on fire. They're just going to keep driving by, So you just got to understand, like, what you present, what you put out into the world is what you get back.
There's no doubt about that. And a lot of people don't understand or realize that. I mean, I look at positive and negative as positive, you're always bringing people up. Negative, a lot of people might think that they're bringing them up by joking with them and oh man, where'd you get those shoes? Those are the worst looking shoes I've ever seen in my life. That whatever. Like that is, even if that's your buddy and you're talking to them, that is bringing somebody down. Like you, as opposed to just, if you don't like their shoes, just don't even mention their shoes or whatever, just finding some way to
Yeah.
bring them up rather than knocking them down. And a lot of people talk like that all the time, and they think they're being nice to people, and they think, or there's this whole thing about, wallowing in each other's misery. Like, oh man, I'm late because there was so much traffic. And then have you seen how much gas costs? And man, my windshield is so dirty, and there's so many bugs out there. I can't even see out the windshield. And the bus was late, and this is that, and this is happening, and that's happening, and groceries are so expensive, and they just keep going on and on and on. And then other people chime in, oh yeah, and did you hear about what they're doing at the school? Oh yeah, that's going to be terrible. And that it's just this whole spiraling down in this negative conversation that is so different. And those are two people that are trying to have a genuine nice conversation with one another, but they're just spiraling down in this negativity of gossip and whatever they choose to be talking about, how expensive the gas is or whatever, as opposed to somebody saying, "Hey, how's it going, man? You did so well on that thing that I saw you do the other day. That was really cool." And move on. And you're talking in a positive manner. It just seems to me that when I see you from the outside looking in, you have such a positive outlook on life. I just wanted to get your opinion on the difference between positive and negative.
No, I mean, for instance, I mean, whatever you do as a person, like whatever, it doesn't matter what John does, what Jill does, or anything. Whatever decision you make, it's your responsibility to own up to it. Whether it's a good decision or a bad decision, every decision has consequences to it, and it has responsibilities to it. So do what's going to make the easiest responsibilities or easiest consequences. And 9 out of 10, that's doing something that's good. Because if you do something bad, you're probably going to go to jail for it, or have bad consequences for it. So I mean, it's a lot easier to think about what you're going to do, make the decision based on what's going to be my repercussions after I make this choice. And that choice that you make, you're gonna have to live with it. Don't blame anybody else for your decision you made. Don't try and say, well, if John would have been here all the time, I wouldn't have been. I would have got this paper in earlier. No, if you would have done it when you needed to do it, or a few days earlier, you would have had it on time. Like, just don't blame someone else for your actions. Make a choice, make a decision in life, go with it, and own up to your responsibilities.
Man, I love it. I love it. And I don't know how we could do much better than ending it right there. That's amazing. And I really appreciate your input on all that. So if people wanted to learn more about you, follow you, go to one of your motivational speaking engagements, how would they do that?
Well, my social media is currently hacked at this moment,
Oh
but
no.
my social media sites, yeah, I've been battling with Instagram and Facebook to get my accounts back. But my accounts are Facebook account is Son of the South, SON of the South. Instagram is at Son of the South TV, and my personal Facebook is Joshua Carney. If you just type in Joshua Carney on YouTube, or I mean YouTube, Google, Yahoo, or anything, I'll pop up somewhere in there.
Yeah, there's a
But
lot
yeah,
out
if you
there.
want to reach out to me and shoot me a message, I think my email address is Josh Son of the South at iCloud.com. If someone just wants to reach out and say hey or anything like that.
All right. Well, I'm sure that people will. You've got a fantastic story. You've, you know, your story is amazing, but the way that you have handled, the things that have happened in your life and turned them around for good is really something that I'm very interested in. I love it, and just want to say congratulations to you for being able to do that. I know you've got amazing things ahead of you, whether that's in the hunting world or the motivational speaking world or whatever else you choose to do. Man, you got a great message, and you're really good at communicating that to people. So I'll be watching for sure.
I definitely appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, that's it for today, and we'll talk to everybody next week. Josh, thank you very much for being a guest, and I'm sure everybody will head over to your social media when that gets fixed. I want to know how does it get hacked anyway?
How to get hacked?
Yeah.
I got a message from someone that I thought was here in the United States. They were saying, "Hey, do you want to monetize through your social media?" And of course, who doesn't want to monetize off a good social media platform? And once you click the message, they can hack into your software and steal your whole page. So,
Dang.
yep.
Man,
So,
that
and it's been an act of Congress to get my pages back. I'm uh notarized letters, lawyers, and all kind of other stuff just to try and get it back. So it's
so
a big pain in the butt.
when that happens, somebody then goes on and starts posting stuff as if they were you.
No, they post whatever they want to. So like my page went from a hunting and motivational page to pretty much a page about acne and pimples and bad hygiene and rats
Wow.
and mice and all kind of other weird crap.
Wow. I don't see how that's beneficial for the people that are hacking into it. I really don't.
Nah, I don't know. I
And
have no
certainly
idea.
nobody is all of a sudden like, oh, I'm going to buy this acne medicine. Like, I don't think that's how it works. But I don't know.
I tell you what, listen, if you take the time, whenever you have in a day, go to my Facebook page, Son of the South, and just go through some of the videos that they post. You will be completely disgusted by the acne, and like there's like videos of people like they have like maggots in their skin that they're getting
Ooh.
removed, all kind of weird stuff. It's just, yeah.
Wow. I'm still just kind of struggling with why somebody would hack the page and then put that kind of stuff up. Seems
Yeah.
really weird. But anyway, well,
Yeah,
good luck with that,
it's
man.
different.
I hope you get it back, and everybody will be following you when you do. But anyway, Josh,
I
thanks so
definitely
much for
appreciate it.
doing this. I appreciate it. I'll let you know when we can do it again. I'll be watching, and when you got something big going on, man, you let me know.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
Thanks.